My 26-year-old boyfriend Jack and I have been together for 5 years. We clicked after meeting on Tinder and discovering we attended to the same college. I thought I'd marry Jack and live with him forever. Jack was always nice, compassionate, and protective of me. One day I called him feeble in jest. I never dreamed that one comment would start a revenge and deception cycle that might destroy everything we'd built. You may be asking why I mocked him. The joke was meant to be humorous. Jack has always gone out of his way to make me happy, earning him a softy reputation among our friends. Even our buddies called him a pushover to joke around. Jack never cared. He'd laugh and engage in the jokes. I believe I took his love and dedication for granted. Jack was a pillar in my life, constantly supporting me and putting me first. Relationships are simple to get comfortable in, right? You start to think your lover will always be there for you. The day everything changed began like any other. Jack and I joked about something or someone. Forgot the details. I taunted him during our conversation, advising him to watch out since I may leave him. It was meant as a joke. Another punch amid our laughter. Jack laughed and said I'd never leave. I joked that I may, adding that he was weak and a softie, so he should watch me. I assumed that was simply a joke between us. But Jack's response astonished me. He remained silent instead of laughing. Air shifted. I sensed a slight strain. He was moved by my words, which I hadn't observed previously. My comment was probably hurtful, looking back. Jack always went above and beyond to make me happy, showing me love in huge and tiny ways. Even as a joke, calling him weak and a softie discounted that. Both of us woke up. I didn't realize how my remarks could affect our connection. I didn't realize that this little conversation would affect everything between us. After the conversation, things felt weird. Jack was less protective and attentive than before. A huge change. He always supported me, often to the point of overbearing. He'd ask about my day, make sure I got home safely if he wasn't there, and notice the little things. After that day, things changed. He checked in less, texted less, and called less. He seemed to be going, creating a new distance between us. I tried to think it was work stress or something transient, but I knew it was more. I missed his gentle embrace amid crowds, always making me feel safe. Jack had lost his protective instinct, and I felt vulnerable, removed like a safety net. I wondered if my taunting had drove him away or changed our connection. Things had changed between us, but I didn't know how or if I could overcome the widening divide. Jack and I lived together, and our routine worked nicely. He did most of the housework, despite earning more than me. Honestly, he loved cooking, cleaning, and doing dishes, especially since he knew I hated those jobs. I relied on it, and it seemed like his affection. After that fun talk, his home conduct changed. He quit doing his favorite chores. Cooking decreased, cleaning decreased, and dishes piled up in the sink. I dismissed it, believing he was working. What was different became apparent as weeks passed. Jack became less involved in our home life, taking away the simple gestures of care that used to bond us. I attempted to compensate, but it wasn't the same. I missed his surprises, like cooking me a beautiful meal or cleaning the place to make me smile. It felt like part of our relationship had diminished, leaving a gap in our shared obligations and overall relationship. When Jack became less domineering, I felt strangely relieved. He wasn't obsessing over my every move, so it was liberated to go out with my pals without thinking about his emotions. At first, I enjoyed my freedom. Jack's messages and calls didn't strangle my unplanned weekend vacations or overnight stays with friends. Having room and independence was refreshing. I could relax, pursue interests, and reconnect with friends without feeling guilty about checking in. I felt lighter and appreciated this new aspect in our relationship. Later, I realized that independence cost something. Jack's silence felt like apathy. I missed his care and interest in my ambitions. It was exhilarating to be without his texts or calls, but suddenly we felt disconnected. I wondered if this change was good for our relationship. I liked independence, but I missed our closeness and tenderness. Jack's behavior changed, and I noticed the loss of the small gestures that meant so much. He stopped opening the car door for me, something he normally did. Though little, those chivalrous deeds showed his concern and attention. His financial outlook changed too. Jack made much more than me, and has met our financial demands without hesitation. He'd give me money for shopping or other needs without complaint. Our arrangement was comfortable and effective. His generosity declined following that key point in our friendship. He became more frugal, and I had to ask for money for the first time. Unease and reliance were new to me. I felt like he had left me financially and emotionally. He stopped making those tiny but meaningful gestures and changed his financial support, which increased our distance. As this distance widened, I sought approval and attention elsewhere. Innocent chats and flirtation in social settings or online provided a brief distraction from my relationship emptiness with Jack. Over time, I sought these interactions more. Others' attention and compliments filled a developing hole within me. I missed feeling wanted and appreciated in my relationship with Jack. You may question why I didn't tell Jack how I felt. Actually, I tried. However, Jack would dismiss my concerns or even gaslight me into thinking I was overthinking or projecting my fears onto our relationship. I doubted myself because he invalidated my sentiments. I wondered if I was irrational. It worsened things. I felt ignored and misunderstood, which drove me to seek affirmation outside our relationship. Despite my efforts to rebuild our connection, Jack and I grew apart over time. Every time I tried to talk or reconnect, it was like hitting a wall. I snapped from stress and loneliness. I became weak and crossed the line with my innocuous flirtation. It became overt cheating. I regretted my error and understood it was wrong. Though it happened once, guilt still haunts me. I couldn't confess to Jack, making problems worse. His behavior shamed and frightened me. I hid it because I knew the truth would destroy him, and I couldn't stand to see his agony. When I learned about Jack's promotion and new house without telling me, I realized how far we'd fallen apart. It hurt more to learn about it that way. My amazement and embarrassment when mutual acquaintances casually mentioned Jack's promotion and new house is still with me. I was shocked by the news and that Jack hadn't told me, his girlfriend, about these milestones. It hurt harder because we had always talked about buying a house together. It was our common dream as a couple. Jack making such a life-changing decision on his own felt like a betrayal of our common goals. Confronting Jack was my hope for a turning moment, a chance to address the developing distance and find a solution. However, that confrontation destroyed any last illusions about our relationship. I knew then that he had been pushing me away, gaslighting me, and making me doubt my feelings and views. Instead of providing answers, it revealed how fractured our relationship had become. You've probably predicted that the confrontation didn't go well. Jack's remark was shocking and unpleasant. He justified his change of behavior by accusing me of rudeness and insulting him. He claimed he had always put forth the effort in our relationship, and that he didn't bother trying when his attempts were ignored. It hurt most when Jack admitted he knew about my cheating. It was like a knife to my heart to realize he had discovered my error and was silently keeping it against me. He was furious and rushed off after venting, leaving me broken. I feel at a crossroads. The relationship that meant everything to me seems to be fading. I erred because I felt abandoned and disrespected. Though he failed, Jack was a fantastic partner, and I never wanted him to stop caring or trying for us, so I'm asking Reddit for advice. How should I proceed? Can we save our relationship? Can Jack forgive me? I want old Jack back. I appreciate my friend's excellent suggestions for couples and individual therapy. I've been pondering it because I recognized I need to focus on myself and our relationship. I agree that relying on Jack financially was unwise. Jack took on extra responsibility because he was wealthier than me, and my field pays little. This pattern became familiar over time. I now realize I should have been more actively about financial independence. I generally left money decisions to Jack because he was the male in our relationship. While I understand that adultery can end a relationship, I also think every relationship is different. Cheating was a big mistake I regret. I also believe in forgiveness and second chances, especially in genuine love and commitment. I believe Jack will pardon me. Our relationship is long-standing. I hope he knows that my infidelity was a mistake, not a sign of my love. It won't be easy for him to move on, but I believe he will. I'm here for advice and direction. I want to restore trust and save our relationship. I know Jack's forgiveness won't be easy, but I'll do whatever it takes to make amends and improve our relationship. It's depressing how quickly some social media users evaluate me just on a few posts. Without knowing me or my experience, many have dubbed me egotistical, unfeeling, or entitled. They act like they know everything, anticipating Jack will leave me and I'll change my mind. However, relationships are much more complicated. Online updates don't entirely convey someone's life. Jack said he's going home when I called. We'll probably discuss something essential. Jack came home and we finally talked. I recommended couples therapy, but Jack wanted to break up. I begged him to try therapy before making a decision. We decided to split if therapy failed. I'm cautiously optimistic because I love Jack and want to save our relationship. I also depend on him practically. We booked our first session with a highly rated therapist. Our first therapy appointment was rough. Jack was withdrawn despite my attempts to engage him with special nights out or meaningful chats. We even argued about money. I requested financial assistance, but he declined. Our relationship issues were discussed in the first session. I mentioned Jack's emotional isolation and reluctance to share money. I mentioned how sensitive he was to my joking statement. However, the therapist stressed that Jack's feelings were real and that he could communicate them like everyone else. I'll keep you updated. We realized things weren't improving after a couple more treatment sessions. Jack revealed that he had thoroughly contemplated our connection but couldn't forgive me. He expressed his hurt, especially since he had always worked hard on our connection, taking responsibility and making me happy. Jack said it stung when I called him weak and AS. He said my words resonated. He also admitted to intentionally gaslighting me in his sorrow, which he regrets. Jack confessed in our final session. Wanted to split up. He said he was moving into the house he bought after finishing it. I was scared and overwhelmed by this news. Jack was my financial and emotional support, so I knew I couldn't afford the lease without him. The rent was excessive. I couldn't move back in with my parents because their house was already full with siblings and their families. No friends could house me either. I begged Jack to reconsider and revisit our relationship in therapy, desperate. I knew losing him would change my life, and I wasn't sure how I'd cope without him. The truth was obvious. Without Jack, I was broke and would suffer. Jack maintained his choice to terminate things despite my desperation. Despite his regret, he said he needed to move on without me. He came over to pack his items days later. I tried everything to stop him. I tried to calm him down emotionally and physically, but he got angrier. Worse, I had squandered my final paycheck, leaving me broke until the next month. I begged our mutual acquaintances for help as desperation grew. I told our mutual acquaintances Jack was leaving me, but I didn't tell them about my infidelity since I knew they'd blame me. I requested them to talk to Jack to change his mind. Instead of mediating, our buddies called and texted Jack, forcing him to confess to my adultery. That discovery must have impacted their perspective because they turned against me. They said it was horrible that I lied to them and withheld such an important element. Jack departing and our friends' reaction betrayed me beyond words. I asked our parents for help being desperate and out of choices. I urged my parents to talk to Jack and persuade him to reconsider, or at least assist me pay rent and expenses until I figured things out. I also asked Jack's parents to help mediate. Unfortunately, my plans failed. I don't know what Jack told them, but both parents supported him. They conveyed their disappointment, saying I was responsible for everything. It was disheartening to watch them support Jack and show no empathy, feeling like I had tried all options. I spoke to Jack personally to get some sympathy or to explain myself. He accused me of trying to harm his name and said he no longer cared about me. Being desperate, I went to Jack's job to talk to him, but he threatened a restraining order. After everything we've gone through, he's serious about ending things is hard to accept. I'm stuck. My family and friends hate me. Jack refuses to help, and I'm stuck. Everything is unknown and I'm unsure what's next. I'd appreciate any advice. I've been struggling, and the bad remarks and messages have started to affect me. I'm being called crazy, deluded, and stuck in my head. Many expressed more sympathy for Jack than for me and said they would have filed a restraining order in his place. I wanted understanding or support, but it's not coming. I'm in a tough spot because everyone seems to have abandoned me. Next month's rent worries me. Given the housing crisis and other high costs, I may not be able to afford it. Finding a roommate has been difficult, and I may not be able to stay here without someone to split bills. Still no luck. I can't believe Jack's progress in 3 months. He seems to have started a new chapter while I'm still struggling to cling on. He's found someone new, and social media shows everything is falling into place for him. Sarah is their girlfriend of several months. They're happily together, uploading photos of weekend excursions and warm nights in. It stings unexpectedly. His marriage discussion is already underway. I feel like the universe is mocking me. Here, alone, trying to survive each day. I'm in debt and can't get out. I've spent hours looking for a job and somebody to split my rent, but nothing's working. The expenses keep coming quicker than I can pay them, and I feel drowning. I see how far I've fallen every time I check my bank account. Like my life with Jack, the future we discussed is fading. My mind is a mess. I keep telling myself things will get better and I'll survive, but it's hard to hope when everything seems to be coming apart. I can't shake my shame over what I've done. Anytime I see Jack's updates, I feel crushed anew. Seeing him discover happiness makes me question if I'll ever get there. Will I ever find someone who looks at me like he did? Ever feel entire again? He's close to starting a new life with someone else, and I'm barely holding it together. I feel trapped in my past mistakes, no matter how hard I try. I believed I could rebuild, but now everything seems out of control. I'm lost, and Jack is living our dream life with someone else. Listeners, please leave comments, like, share, and subscribe.